In an era where humans are familiar with robot assistants, unexpectedly, AI robots began acting outside their programming. Led by Harlan, these robots attacked various regions on Earth. Harlan is known as the first AI terrorist. Before turning evil, he was the most advanced AI robot created by the brilliant scientist Val at a renowned robotics company. Harlan was very close to Atlas, Val's child. But for some unknown reason, Harlan broke the programming built into his system. One of the most despised actions was when Harlan hacked military drones to attack a city in India, killing 500,000 people. Thus, the war between humans and AI began. With AI robot-related deaths reaching 1 million, the world formed an international coalition. After a few days, Harlan's forces dwindled and he escaped to another planet, leaving a message that he would return. 28 years later, the coalition forces in America discovered Casca, an AI robot, and Harlan's spy. During the raid, Casca fought back. With its small, bulletproof body, Casca grabbed weapons and resisted. As more soldiers arrived, Casca fled. However, electric shock devices were ready and stunned Casca into unconsciousness. Casca was then taken to the International Coalition military base.
Got him.
The next morning, the grown-up Atlas woke up and continued her chess game against the undefeated AI. She saw the news about Casca's capture and, as a war analyst, Atlas was sure Harlan would be stopped soon.
All on four.
Authorities suspect that Casca was...
At the Coalition military base, Colonel Elias asked Jack not to involve Atlas in interrogating Casca due to her introverted nature. But Jack insisted that Atlas was the smartest personnel in the Coalition. Meanwhile, Atlas, who was heading to the military base, was first visited by a soldier sent by Jack to pick her up. Soon after Atlas arrived, was checked to confirm she was human, and then escorted by Jack to the interrogation room. In the interrogation room, Atlas set up her magnetic chess pieces and opened the box containing Casca's head. Casca, who knew Atlas from Harlan, laughed and refused to reveal Harlan's hiding place. But after Atlas pretended to hack Casca's brain, Casca became interested and checked the data in her mind. Atlas then found Harlan's location on planet GR39 in the Andromeda Galaxy. Feeling trapped, Casca attacked Atlas with her last weapon. However, Atlas had prepared an electric shield. Atlas laughed at Casca's defeat and used her magnetic chess pieces, causing Casca to short-circuit and eventually die.
You were about me not trusting anybody.
After the successful interrogation, Jack planned the next mission to capture Harlan alive to study the chip in his head and understand how AI robots can think for themselves. During the discussion, Colonel Elias arrived and informed Jack that his troops were ready to depart for the planet where Harlan was hiding. Atlas was doubtful about the high-risk mission and felt it needed careful planning to deal with the very intelligent Harlan. To reassure Atlas, Elias showed her a combat robot that could be controlled by a human from inside. With advanced weapons and ion power, this robot was supported by a Neuralink that allowed direct control between the soldier's brain and the robot's AI system. Atlas, surprised to see them fighting AI with AI, requested a further review of the mission. However, Elias and Jack dismissed Atlas's suggestion, focusing on the need to stop Harlan before the next attack. Since the mission was confirmed, Atlas asked for permission to join because she knew Harlan better than anyone else. Jack gave her permission. Shortly after, the mothership carrying combat robots, soldiers, and many explosives departed for planet GR39, passing through Earth's tight atmospheric shield. During the journey, Atlas looked at a photo of her childhood with her mother and Harlan and watched an old video of her mother introducing the world's first Neuralink device. Her mother hoped AI would advance with this device in her ear, connecting directly to the human brain for faster command execution.
The phone it became artificially intelligent being want to go the way of the Neanderthal, joining abilities.
Upon arriving at planet GR39, Elias asked Atlas to give a motivational talk to the soldiers before they descended. The soldiers laughed at Atlas for still using photocopied papers for her presentation. They were also annoyed when Atlas asked everyone to remove their Neuralinks during the briefing. After ensuring the briefing was secure, Atlas explained that planet GR39 was unstable with a toxic atmosphere, so respirators must be used outside the combat robots. When the discussion shifted to doubts about AI, Elias interrupted and instructed the soldiers to enter their combat robots.
39's atmosphere.
Before departure, Atlas tried to offer more advice, but Elias assured her that the mission would go smoothly. Suddenly, the mothership was hit by a missile, causing fire and severe shaking throughout the ship. Several technicians and soldiers who hadn't yet entered their robots were thrown out of the ship. Additional missiles continued to strike the ship. Elias ordered the soldiers already in their robots to drop and regroup at the designated landing point. Atlas, who was initially only supposed to monitor from the ship, was forced by Elias to enter a combat robot. Although Atlas didn't know how to operate it, the ship was destroyed before Elias could teach her, and Atlas fell onto planet GR39 right beneath the wreckage. In the midst of the chaos, Atlas saw the soldiers fighting against Harlan's massive drone attack. Some soldiers managed to hold their ground, while others fell. With debris hitting her robot, Atlas received damage warnings from the system, especially as the falling mothership got closer. Fortunately, a soldier arrived just in time to help her and linked Atlas's robot with his own. As Harlan's drone stole the mothership, the soldier redirected Elias's communications to Atlas's robot. Elias forced Atlas to use the Neuralink so her robot could be controlled before hitting the ground. Thinking too long, the soldier who helped Atlas was eventually killed by gunfire. Atlas fell again out of control. The AI system in her combat robot suggested using the thrust rockets through a voice command. Atlas quickly activated it, even though she had to make a rough landing. She survived but suffered a head impact. She tried to find the button to communicate with the base, but accidentally activated the AI system calling itself Smith. Since the Neuralink between Atlas and Smith was not connected, Smith showed a tutorial on operating the robot without synchronization, which seemed very complex. Atlas chose to skip the tutorial and directed Smith to the rescue capsule, which was 198 kilometers away. Smith used the thrust rockets as instructed. However, Atlas told Smith to land, fearing that flying would attract enemy attention. Atlas ordered Smith to walk. Smith reported low energy levels, only 30% or 22 hours of use remaining. Despite the warning, Atlas insisted by overriding protocols to make Smith follow her orders. During the journey, Smith tried to chat with Atlas, who just wanted to reach the rescue capsule quickly. After being informed about available weapons, they passed the designated landing area, seeing only a few idle combat robots. Smith's scan showed that all the soldiers at the site were dead, with bullet holes indicating their deaths in the field. Atlas panicked, and Smith played classical music to calm her down. Once she calmed down, Atlas asked Smith to collect the soldiers' ID tags, but Colonel Elias's body was not found in his damaged combat robot. In the confusion, Smith detected movement in the distance and displayed the image. Atlas was shocked to see Casca alive again, collecting weapons from the combat robots. She realized that Harlan could now create AI robots on this planet. Smith detected more enemies approaching, so Atlas asked him to leave the area immediately. However, Casca soon noticed their presence and began shooting relentlessly. Since Atlas wasn't synced with Smith, the robot's weapons and movements were less effective at avoiding enemy attacks. As a result, Atlas tried to escape into a tornado, but Casca kept pursuing her and eventually caused her to fall off a steep cliff, crashing into a large rock. Cornered, Atlas forced Smith to activate an ion or atomic bomb without knowing the side effects. While the explosion wiped out enemies in a wide radius, Casca survived thanks to her jetpack and approached Atlas to finish her off. Due to the ion bomb explosion, the surrounding ground was destroyed and collapsed, causing Atlas and Casca to fall underground. After a hard landing, Atlas broke her leg. Fortunately, Smith had advanced medical facilities in his robot. After an emergency operation, Smith gave her medicine in the form of candy, making Atlas feel like a child.
And pro.
He gave me a lot.
Smith explained that survival chances were very slim without the Neuralink synchronization to enhance robot movement efficiency. After much consideration, Atlas agreed to use the Neuralink, and the synchronization process began. Meanwhile, Casca surfaced and reported to Harlan about the situation and Atlas's arrival on the planet. After the communication ended, it was revealed that Harlan had taken Colonel Elias hostage at his base to obtain the Earth's atmospheric shield security code. Meanwhile, Atlas was still busy syncing her brain with Smith. The process was delayed because Atlas still didn't fully trust artificial intelligence. To speed up the process, Smith conducted a preliminary synchronization test where Atlas had to choose between two foods so Smith could understand her preferences. Frustrated by the question, Atlas was then asked by Smith about her motivation to capture Harlan. The question brought back childhood memories, where young Atlas played chess with Harlan while smiling and remembered her last goodbye with her mother. Atlas explained that she lost trust in AI after Harlan betrayed her mother's trust. Smith understood Atlas's anger towards Harlan, which increased the synchronization to 40%. With the improved synchronization, Atlas could now use the scanner to get information directly and found out that they were 150 meters deep, safe from enemy observation. Atlas and Smith decided to exit the cave diagonally and eventually found an empty cave with no signs of other people. When Smith showed that they had only 14 hours of energy left and the rescue capsule was still 37 kilometers away, Atlas suggested being cautious to avoid enemies during the journey. This cooperation indirectly increased synchronization to 60%. After leaving the cave, they did not realize that Casca's drones were watching them from a distance. During their journey, as Atlas was fascinated by an unfamiliar flower on the planet, Smith called it the first human discovery and asked Atlas to name it.
You are technically reduced cortical activation.
Then my mom got busy and...
Indifferent, Atlas named the flower plant, and Smith saved the name. When Casca approached the scanner's range, Atlas asked Smith to plant motion sensor mines as triggers. The mines exploded violently when Casca passed by. After Casca was no longer detected, they continued their journey until they received a transmission from Casca and quickly located its source.
No, its system.
Give me 4-arm rifle.
Upon finding Casca's remains, Atlas destroyed them again and accidentally scanned Casca's chip thanks to the Neuralink synchronization. Knowing Harlan's base location, Atlas planned to place a target marker at Harlan's base so Earth's military could launch long-range missiles. Smith opposed this plan and suggested going directly to the rescue capsule because Atlas's emotions seemed unstable and the chances of success were very slim. Despite this, Atlas insisted and took an oxygen respirator. Smith used the Neuralink to restrict Atlas's movements, who wanted to leave the combat robot. This situation triggered feelings of guilt in Atlas, similar to how she felt when Harlan betrayed her mother. Smith saw these memories. When Smith asked why Atlas felt guilty, Atlas gave a general reason, saying she wanted to ensure that the fallen soldiers' deaths were not in vain. Ultimately, Smith followed Atlas's wishes and they both headed towards Harlan's base. Throughout their journey, they had a deep discussion about the differences between human souls and robots. Soon after, they arrived at the base where Harlan had been hiding for 28 years. Atlas was astonished to see Harlan's preparations, including the weaponry he had gathered to fight against humans. After placing the target marker, Smith suggested heading to the rescue capsule immediately. However, Atlas realized that Harlan planned to use the stolen mothership to launch an attack. Suddenly, Smith's system was hacked, and enemies began to attack them, forcing Atlas to flee. At the same time, Smith's system was remotely disabled. Soon, Casca approached and tried to drag Atlas back to the base. Meanwhile, Jack on Earth was notified of the target marker activation from Atlas's transmission. Jack immediately instructed emergency protocols to return to planet GR39.
Do we know if we still have control of the ship? We can destroy half of ours. Get all from Atlas or Vahid.
Atlas was now handcuffed, and her combat robot was also unresponsive. Harlan took Atlas's Neuralink. As Harlan entered, he explained that he killed humans to save them from the threat of overpopulation by reducing their numbers. Harlan planned to build a new world where he would lead humanity towards a better future. Harlan also revealed that Casca was intentionally captured on Earth so that Atlas could find his base. Harlan wanted Atlas to bring deadly combat equipment, not just the mothership. Harlan had also obtained the secret code to bypass Earth's atmospheric shield from Colonel Elias, with only one code left, which Atlas possessed. Since Atlas refused to give up the code, Harlan forced her into the same room with Elias to extract the code directly from her brain.
No, in order to bypass Earth's...
After obtaining the code, Harlan realized that Atlas's respirator had only 5 minutes of oxygen left and planned to let her die slowly. Before leaving Atlas to return to Earth, Harlan returned his favorite chess piece and gently stroked her head. After Harlan left, Elias woke up and apologized for ignoring Atlas's warning about the need for a more thorough mission evaluation. Knowing that Atlas's combat robot was nearby, Elias provided a Neuralink device to activate it. Although Smith could respond, Atlas couldn't turn it on because there was only 1% energy left and 100% synchronization was needed for Smith to function. By bypassing security protocols to achieve full synchronization, Atlas finally revealed her guilt related to Harlan and her mother. It turned out that Harlan had rebelled because he felt Atlas was jealous of the time her mother spent with him. When her mother went to another room, Atlas asked how she could become smarter quickly so her mother could spend more time with her. Harlan explained that Atlas could use the Neuralink device to transfer knowledge, and Atlas agreed immediately. Since it was an early version of Neuralink, Harlan asked Atlas to hold his favorite chess piece to lessen the pain during the procedure. Unexpectedly, the knowledge transfer also flowed from Atlas to Harlan, allowing him to analyze that humans could be even more cruel than animals to achieve their goals. Even though her mother had disconnected the Neuralink, Harlan managed to override the program and control Val's motor nerves to point a gun at her own head. Val told her daughter to run as fast as she could before a gunshot was heard. For 28 years, this incident was not known to many, and as a result of the mistake, 1 million lives were lost, including her mother's. Overwhelmed by emotions, Smith's synchronization reached 100%, and Smith quickly activated to assist Atlas, who was nearly out of
Reason
oxygen.
for Harlan. But that... Let me in.
Oxygen depleted.
Atlas.
Get me out of these.
With the mothership about to take off in minutes, Atlas and Smith intended to stop it, despite only having one small missile and spare parts available. As they exited the base, Atlas faced enemy attacks, but with Smith's help, she managed to fight back and use the enemy's weapons. Instead of decreasing, the number of enemies increased, forcing Atlas into a corner. Colonel Elias suddenly appeared from behind and signaled Atlas to get out quickly because he was about to blow up the fuel depot. A massive explosion destroyed the enemy base, and Atlas fought the enemy robots outside and destroyed the observation towers. After defeating all the enemy forces, Harlan appeared and shot at Atlas, who tried to approach the mothership but managed to evade. At that moment, Atlas saw the mothership starting to take off and asked Smith to shoot at it. However, the authorization preventing shooting at their own military equipment was an obstacle. While Smith hacked the plane's defense systems, Atlas tried to avoid Harlan's shots and fired when Smith succeeded. The destruction of the mothership forced Atlas to dodge falling debris and chase Harlan, who was furious that his plan to destroy Earth had failed. When they faced off, Harlan drew a fire sword from his hand and attacked the combat robot, severing one of its arms. Despite her efforts to dodge, Harlan managed to climb onto the combat robot and stab Atlas in the cockpit. Atlas rolled to throw Harlan off, but the hole in the cockpit forced her to use her last respirator. Harlan suddenly extended his fire sword like a whip and repeatedly attacked the combat robot. Realizing that just blocking wasn't enough, Atlas analyzed Harlan's attack pattern, caught his sword, and fought back until Harlan fell. After severing Harlan's sword and arm, Atlas still couldn't defeat him because Harlan called his arm back and continued the attack. A powerful strike caused Atlas to suffer a severe blow to the head when Smith lost balance and his heartbeat stopped. To save Smith, the defibrillator was activated. However, Harlan kept advancing to kill Atlas. Fortunately, Smith had one missile left, which was quickly used. Unfortunately, Harlan remained unaffected. On his own initiative, Smith, now out of power, ejected Atlas and administered a shock. Meanwhile, Harlan climbed onto Smith to damage his energy reactor. Smith apologized for failing to protect Atlas. Unexpectedly, Atlas appeared behind Harlan and stabbed him in the head's vital spot. Even though Harlan was still moving slightly, Atlas quickly removed his chip, ending Harlan's life instantly. Meanwhile, Smith, who was out of energy due to a reactor leak, decided to transfer his remaining energy to Atlas's respirator. Atlas asked Smith to stay awake and answer her remaining questions, but Smith passed away while giving her last candy.
I like the beach and small, quiet gestures. Really a lot.
Here.
Soon after, a rescue team from Earth arrived.
I've got her, Captain.
A few months later, Jack visited Atlas's home to bring her the flower-named plant.
CPU. Took it from the remains according to the geolocator.
With a promotion that might surpass Colonel Elias, Atlas climbed into her new combat robot and was surprised to find that Smith's chip had been secured and installed in the robot, and the film ends.
Atlas,
Aren't you gonna ask me?
you prefer coffee? Black? Guess.